So moving along through our series of videos, we're going to talk next about adding a countertop to our kitchen. So where we left it off, we added in some appliances, we added in some base cabinetry. We have this sort of galley style kitchen going on. This will be a bit of an island. And what we need to do next is add in some countertops. So we're going to have a countertop that extends from the refrigerator to the range, and then again from the right side of the range out towards our double swing doors. Over here where the dishwasher is DW, we're going to have a piece of countertop that extends over the dishwasher and all the cabinetry. And it's also going to extend out to the right from that cabinetry about 6 inches. That's on the right. And then on the bottom, we'll extend out 6 inches as well. That'll be nice for if we have stools in this area, people can get underneath the countertop with their knees and makes a little more comfortable kind of eating area. Okay, so we'll get started by going to component. And this time we're going to want to use the drop down arrow below it. We're going to use this feature called model in place. This allows us to create our own kind of pieces of furniture, shelving, countertops in this case, but anything that's custom that we need to create on our own. So we're going to call this countertop. I call it countertop 5 because I've already created a few countertops, and I think I'm on number 5 at this point. And I'll click OK. So the first thing I have to do when I get into the model in place editor, we know we're in an editor because we have the red X and the green check. First thing I'm going to do is I'm going to create an extrusion. So this will look a little familiar to us from having used Inventor. And to start an extrusion, we know we need to do a sketch. So we're going to create the area that will be occupied by our first piece of countertops. That's going to go from the fridge to the range. So we're going to snap there. And now we want to come down to the end of the cabinetry, but we want to extend out another inch. So we can pull our cursor down until we get 2'1". It's a little finicky to get that exactly. So what we can do, and actually just land on 2'1", but in case it doesn't, you can type in 2 space 1. That's 2 feet 1 inches. And hit enter. Next, we'll come over to the left, and we want to just go right to the fridge. So we're going to hit that point, and then we're going to snap to our beginning point. And before we click the green check mark, we might as well do all these countertops at once. We know what we're doing here. So we're going to go ahead and do that. I'm going to come on to this base cabinet, and you can't see the dimension above, but if I pan up, we can see that's 2'2" right now. We again want to extend out 1 inch past the cabinet. So if it's being a little finicky with you, you'll just go to your keyboard and you can type 2 space 1, hit enter, and then come down. We'll do the same thing again, 2 space 1, enter. We'll move to the right all the way to the range, click, and then come back up to our starting point and click. That's 2 out of 3 countertops. The final one is for our little island area. So we're going to start here. And instead of coming down 2'1 inches, we wanted to come down 6 inches past the cabinet. So we're going to type in 2 space 6. And we'll hit enter, and we'll move over to the right. I can just come over here, and I can see that if I went right to the edge of the base cabinetry, I'd be at 8 feet. Again, I want to extend out another 6 inches, so I would keep going to 8'6". I was able to get it that time. Here, if I went to the end of the cabinetry, I would get to 2'6". Okay, but as we remember, we want to extend out at least an inch. So we're going to go 2'6" plus 1 inch, which would be 7. We're going to put 2 space 7, and we're going to hit enter. Okay. Now we can come over to the left. It's going to reference the line that's already there. And if I zoom in, you'll see I need to create a tiny little line segment to get me back to my starting point. Now I've got 3 countertops. What I need to do before I hit the green check, it's very important that I tell it the height of this extrusion. So where is it going to start? Well, it's going to start at 2 foot 10 inches, actually 2 foot 10 and a half. And I know that because I've updated the height of my cabinetry. If I haven't, I'm going to see that as soon as I go into 3D view. So it starts at 2 foot 10 and a half, and then you typically want your countertops to be at 3 feet tall. So the top of the countertop will be at 3 feet. And we can hit apply, and we can click the green check. Okay, so there's our countertops. You could finish the model, but before we do that, we're going to take a look and see how this actually looks in real life. We'll have to orbit around and zoom in, and we can see we've got an issue. Okay, so we got our base cabinets that have a couple of problems. One, they don't come up to the countertop, and two, they're way shorter than the oven. Okay, and we want countertops look like they're at the right height because they're at roughly the oven height, and you want that all to be kind of flush in your kitchen. So what we need to do is actually edit these cabinets. Now, before I do that, I'm just going to finish off with this countertop extrusion because there's one more thing I want to do. And the thing I want to do is make a cutout in it where my sink is going to go. Okay, I'm going to have a sink centered between these two windows. So I am going to create a cutout for it. So you're going to have to go to the Create toolbar, and you're going to use this Void Forms. We're going to click that, and we want to do a void extrusion, which is like a cut extrude out of our countertop. So we're going to roughly, and I'm not measuring anything out because I don't have the sink yet to reference. So I'm going to just guess at dimensions, but what I do want to make sure I do is create a fully enclosed rectangle. Again, check the extrusion start, 2 foot 10 and a half. Extrusion end is 3 feet. That matches our countertop, which we want it to, but double check that, and then you can hit your green finish check. Okay, we're going to hit it twice. We know we need to do some adjustments with our cabinets, so we're going to take a look at this. Here you can see you've got your opening for the sink. That's roughed in. Now we're going to adjust these cabinets to make them the height that we need. Okay, so we're going to click on that, and we're going to go to Edit Type. Here you can edit parameters of anything you drop into your model. So say, for example, you had a fridge, it was too wide or too narrow. You can actually adjust the width of things, which is very nice. Okay, for the cabinets, we only really care about the height. We're going to need to make that number from 2 foot 6 and make them come all the way up to 2 foot 10 and a half inches. And we're going to hit enter, and we're going to say okay. Right away, we can see 3D models updated. This looks good. Okay, everything's flush across the top. That's what we want. Our next step is we're going to drop in a sink, and that'll drive what we do with this opening. So we'll go to the first floor, and we will take a look at our architecture toolbar. I want to go for a component, and I want to use a sink that's already pre-drawn for me. So I'm going to go to the browser. I'm going to scroll down until I get to S. I'm looking for sink, and I've got lots of room in this kitchen, so I could put in a sink like this. This is a large sink. You can put in something smaller if you wanted to. You could edit the type, and you could edit width. Okay, it would be nice if you updated the title when you do that. I'm just going to leave it for the purposes of this video. I'm going to hit cancel. I'm going to put this in. What I am going to try my best to do here is center this sink with the center of my window. So I'm going to bring this down, and there I'm centered with the window. I want to go about 6 inches away from the wall. You can see that temporary dimension on the right of my sink, updated to 6 inches. When I'm happy with the positioning, I'm going to click it to place it. Okay, now we'll hit escape on the keyboard twice. We're going to come in and take a look at this opening. So let me give you a brief explanation of this sink. This sink is what's called a surface mount sink. So it's got 2 basins, and they are these 2 sort of rectangles with the radiused corners. Our opening should at least accommodate, it should at least be big enough to fit those two basins, right? The outside here, this is a flange that actually sits on top of the countertop. So we don't need to make our opening come all the way out here to the flange. Otherwise, the flange would have nothing to sit on. Okay, it needs to sit on some countertops. So we're only going to make this opening as big as we have to. I can click on these blue triangles and I can drag this opening till it is the same size as that basin. In reality, would make it a little bigger so we have a little wiggle room when we try to fit the sink in, but for our design, we are just going to make it flush with the left side, the front and the right of those two basins. At the top, you would think you would want to put it right here, okay? But remember, these two circles beside the faucet are where your plumbing comes into. So to get from below the cabinets, which is where your plumbing is, to the faucet, they need to go through the countertops. And since we're cutting a hole, we might as well cut a hole that's big enough to fit the faucet plumbing. Once we've done that, we can just click away. Changes are locked in. And as always, we're going to go to 3D and take a look at what we've got. So we've got our sink. It's dropped in, looking on the countertop. It's looking good. Now I realize if I orbit around here and do a quick pan, I can see my cabinets are actually inside my sink, which of course isn't quite correct. And we're going to figure out how to fix that later. In reality, if you wanted to drop this sink in here, you probably could. You would, when you install it, you get out your saw and actually cut away the material between these cabinets. Okay, we'll address that at a later point. For now, we'll stop the video and we will catch you on the next video.